The thing that I've learned over the years, and it took a while, young in my career, if I didn't make a ranking or if I wasn't somewhere, it bothered me. But once I realized that I didn't need those people to validate what I was able to do, I was cool. My teammates, the coaches that I played for, the fans that I played in front of, they know what I represent. They know who I am. So if 10, 15 people got in the room and said, well, I don't think he's top 100 or I don't think he's one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends of all time, I'm good with that. But my numbers, my resume is complete. I can't add to it. You can't take from it. So I'm good with where I am in life.
Let me ask you this, right? If there was a Hall of Fame where just players who played voted, would the Hall of Fame that exists now, would that look different?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe so. I believe so, because what we look at as a Hall of Famer and what the media and I'm not saying they don't understand. Obviously, if you cover the game 10, 15, 20, 30 years, but we look at great players in a totally different manner.
Absolutely.
I get to watch game tape. I'm not talking about when somebody's cheered and he got 10 touchdowns. I'm looking at a guy that when I break him down on tape, because a lot of the guys that went to the Pro Bowl, when I was my Pro Bowl list looked a lot different than the guys that actually made the Pro Bowl, because I know what was tough. I know guys that I had trouble blocking or getting open against, and so that was a lot different than maybe the fans or maybe even the coaches. But there's no question in my mind that if players voted for people that was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I believe it'll look a lot different than the guys that are actually in.
Absolutely. Okay.
So with that being said, Deion just came out, not too long ago, and he just basically said, in a sense, that the Hall of Fame is a joke, and like there's no exclusivity with the guys that they're putting in, and obviously the process. Would you agree?
Well, I do. I'm a firm believer. It's the Hall of Greatness. It's not the Hall of Longevity. Just because you played 15, you played 20 years, that don't mean you were great. Give me someone. I don't care if they were great for 6, 7 years. Give me that as opposed to somebody that was good for 15, 20 years. And I think sometimes we get caught up into that where he played a long time. That means he had
just
to be
put
good.
him in automatically.
Nah, that's not how I view it. Now, obviously, I'm not one of the voters, but there was a criteria once upon a time. But what I'm starting to see, if we like you, we'll make accommodations for reasons why you should get in. And if we don't, we're going to come up with new guidelines to keep you out or keep you out as long as we possibly can. And so, look, I don't begrudge anybody that got into the Hall of Fame, because I'm sure there are some people that probably think I don't deserve to be there. It's not going to change me, because last I checked, they don't send checks out for the Hall of Fame. So
I found that out too through T. When I had hit him, I was like, "Hey, if you go to the Hall, you getting a check, so you have to do all that."
A check to do what?
Right? I didn't know.
And they had me somehow. I heard somewhere through the grapevine. I heard that, and then he mentioned it. And I'm like, man, let me check on this.
No.
I got Doug Sanders. We share business, do some business with every now and then. I contacted Doug, and I'm like, Doug, I just heard such and such. I'm like, we're supposed to get like an annual check, like every year the Hall of Fame is up. The Hall of Famers that are in, we get a check. And he goes, oh, let me check. So we end up calling
everybody.
Man, I got my little bubble burst, boy.
No, I think that's something that they're working on, T.O. I don't know how soon that will come to fruition. That's something that they're working on. But I know if you go back and you sign jerseys or things like that, but I never take the money. I just give it to the guys that are less fortunate, because I realize everybody didn't play in an era in which I played and made money and was able to parlay that into our post-career. So for when I go back to the Hall, I don't take any of the money, give it to the guys that are more fortunate, that are less fortunate. And I heard that, they're trying to work on medical for guys that's in the Hall of Fame. And I was like, look, let me be at the bottom of the rung. Let the guys that came in the 60s and 70s
that
and 80s
can barely walk
that can
right
barely
now.
get along and that's not as fortunate as Shannon. Shannon's fine. Shannon's able to take care of
herself. When you're talking about Shannon, you're
you're
talking about yourself.
Yeah, I'm talking about me. Yeah, Shannon's fine. So I've been very fortunate, and so that's the way I look at it. But Time and I have talked, and I'm very surprised Time said that, because we've talked a lot about things like this off camera and something, but so it had to be weighing very heavily on his mind for him to bring that publicly, because a lot of time guys don't discuss the Hall of Fame because it is such a sacred, it's such a hallowed, it's the heaven for football players.
heaven.
That's what it is.
And that's why I took the approach and stance that I took when I didn't make it the first time. You know what I mean? The first time I was cool. I'm like, okay, cool. You know, as you mentioned the criteria, all these things that it described
that was never in play, all of a sudden became in play.
Right. And so then, okay, all right, the second year go around, I'm down in Houston. Like everybody was like, the first year they said I was a shoe-in. That was in San Francisco. And I'm like, I'm thinking I'm in. I'm talking to fellow Hall of Famers. I go to the luncheon. I go to everything that they had us to go to. And then I'm like, okay, cool. It's in San Francisco. I'm like, man, this is a great time. This is where I played. This is where I started. I'm going to make it.
Right.
It didn't happen. I didn't get that knock at the door. Second year, I'm in Houston. Everybody's like, oh, dude, you got to make it this year. I'm down in Houston. And me at this point, I'm trying to be optimistic.
Right.
But at the same time,
But you had a feeling you didn't feel good.
Yeah, I'm a realist. And so I think my friends, they had balloons because everybody was like, okay, you didn't make it the first year. Bro, you got to make it the second year. They had balloons up in the room. They had it all. I got that call. I'm at a function. I'm leaving just to get back to the room. I get the call from the guy. He goes, I'm just calling you. You didn't make it. So I'm in the back. I'm in the back of the Uber. Cody has some stuff going on. And I tell the people up front, my friend Doug and Heather, I'm like, yo, I said, I didn't make it. They thought I was playing. They said, boy, quit playing. And I said, no, seriously, I didn't make it. Man, you could have heard a rat.
Did you cry?
On cotton.
Did you cry right there?
No.
It's tough because I've gone through that process. I went through the very process that he went with, and had to get in on the third try. You look at, I had 3 Super Bowls, had all the tight end records when I left, and I didn't get in. Well, you know, and I said, and I wasn't upset or anything. I mean, I was disappointed, but I wasn't really,
not upset.
And I'm like, if you didn't like my numbers this year, you're gonna like them even less next year,
it's the same
and the
numbers,
year after, and the year after, and so. It's hard to compare, and sometimes you get into the notion of comparing and contrasting. Look at when I played, the era in which I played, was I dominant? You can't compare me to the 30s because they didn't throw the ball like this.
Right.
You can't compare me to now because they throw the ball
too
way
much,
more.
right,
even more.
way more.
All I'm saying is look at when I played, the era in which I played in, and look at the guys in which I played, the other tight ends in my era, and see how far away above
numbers
where I was than where they were. And so I get what he's going through, and it's really hard on the people that's closest to you. Because for me, my grandmother was getting sick. And the one thing that I wanted her to hear me going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And I just remember that February when I finally got in, and I remember calling her. My sister, she was at a nursing home at that time. And I called her. I was like, my sister was in the room when I would say, put Granny on the phone. She's like, hey, how you doing? I said, well, Granny, I made it. She said, made what? I said, I made the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And she's like, what's that? She said, what's that, baby? I said, that's where they go to put all the good football players. She said, oh, I just hope I'm around to see it. Well, it was in August. My grandmother passed in July. So that was for me, really, because I wanted her to be there. Because sometimes, you know, we get our gifts. We don't really know anything about it. Don't send me flowers when I'm dead. Give them to me while I'm around. And so I wanted my grandmother to be able to get acknowledgement. Although she didn't hear the speech, well, she did hear it because she was looking down on me. But I really wanted her to know that what I was hoped for, everything that I had played for, had come full circle.
Absolutely.
I make it to the Hall of Fame, but that's not why I played. It was to get my grandmother out of that situation.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Shannon Sharpe on Get Your Popcorn Ready podcast.
Yep. And don't forget to subscribe.